Picture this, a continent flush with $2 trillion in oil, gold, and diamonds, and yet millions still line up for bread. That's the resource curse in action, and it's at the heart of today's episode.
It's wild how that paradox persists, right? I'm an analyst with Transparency International Africa, and today we're unpacking why resource riches so often fuel corruption instead of prosperity.
So here's what you can expect. We'll break down the mechanics of the resource curse, trace the recent coup contagion across West Africa, spotlight Southern Africa's quieter crisis, and end with a look at the youth-led anti-corruption wave shaking things up.
And by the end, we'll tackle the big question. Could 2026 finally be a turning point for Africa's fight against corruption? Or is the old cycle set to repeat? Let's dive in.
The idea of a resource curse almost sounds superstitious, but it's painfully real. Take Nigeria and Angola oil giants pulling in millions of barrels a day, yet everyday people barely see a cent.
Exactly. And what's so frustrating is how these windfalls often bankroll elite looting. In Nigeria, decades of oil revenue have just deepened patronage networks. Meanwhile, Angola's boom mostly benefited a handful of families, leaving almost half the population in extreme poverty.
It's not just oil either. South Africa sits on mountains of platinum and gold, but state capture there turned mineral wealth into a tool for political insiders. You see similar patterns across smaller countries, with mining licenses quietly handed to political allies.
And we can't forget foreign aid over $50 billion a year. It's supposed to help, but too often it just creates new opportunities for graft. Ghost projects, kickbacks, even military slush funds in places like West Africa.
Yet, countries like Botswana and Seychelles have dodged the curse. Their secret? Strong institutions and genuine civic oversight, not just wishful thinking. It really shows that the curse isn't destiny. These resource struggles fuel more than just bad economics. They're sparking coups at a pace we haven't seen in decades. West Africa especially feels like it's caught in a storm.
The timeline is dizzying. Just since 2020, Mali has toppled its government twice. Guinea's president was ousted after a controversial term extension, Burkina Faso's military took over twice, and Niger swung to a junta that's now cozying up to Russia.
Guinea-Bissau and Benin were the latest flashpoints. One successful coup, one barely averted, both fueled by the same old grievances: corruption, unmet salaries, and public fury at endless elite impunity.
But here's the tough reality. Most juntas promise to clean house, but usually just swap in their own networks. The so-called Alliance of Sahel States is really more of a mutual protection pact for coup leaders than a solution for citizens.
If we head south, you don't see tanks in the streets, but democracy isn't exactly thriving either. Take South Africa. After the ANC lost its majority in 2024, coalition politics brought both hope and headache.
Right. There's been some anti-corruption momentum, but coalition friction and old state capture ghosts still haunt the system. Plus, youth unemployment is hovering near 60%. Resource wealth isn't trickling down like promised.
And it's not just South Africa. Mozambique and Namibia both saw hotly contested elections with serious fraud allegations and low turnout. Meanwhile, Botswana, once the region's democratic poster child, is seeing satisfaction plummet.
Southern Africa's edge has always been stronger institutions and a vocal civil society. But the danger now is a kind of slow erosion voter apathy and the hollowing out of once dominant liberation parties. It's a quieter crisis, but just as real.
Here's where the script flips, because the past 2 years have seen a wave of youth-led protests and civic pushback like never before. Kenya's finance bill protests, Togo's youth marches, and digital activism from Dakar to Nairobi.
What's energized me most is how Gen Z isn't just protesting. They're mapping corruption in real time, crowdsourcing data, and demanding real transparency. International Anti-Corruption Day last year had youth at the center, not just as slogans, but as genuine drivers of reform.
Institutions are starting to catch on too. The African Union's advisory board is getting bolder, and countries like South Africa and Kenya just finished rigorous anti-corruption reviews. It's not universal, but it's a real shift.
And there are bright spots. Senegal beat back a power grab, Ghana's transitions have stayed relatively clean, and Botswana still outperforms its neighbors on the CPI. Civic pressure isn't a magic bullet, but it's starting to move the needle.
So, where does this all go by 2030? Some warn the most likely scenario is more decay, more coups, more resource leaks, and another lost generation fleeing for opportunity abroad.
But there's also the risk of managed authoritarianism, where juntas hold fake elections, keep the cash flowing to the top, and call it stability. Gabon's recent model gives us a glimpse of that.
Still, I want to believe in the possibility of real democratic renewal. If youth movements, independent courts, and transparent wealth funds come together, we could see a real resource blessing, and there are already examples like Seychelles or Cape Verde.
The next few years will test which path wins out. The ingredients for change are there. What's missing is the political courage to see it through and the persistence to hold leaders to account.
So here's what stands out. First, resource wealth alone won't deliver unless institutions are strong. Second, the cycle of coups in West Africa shows what happens when public trust collapses. Third, the rise of youth-led activism is shifting the anti-corruption fight in new directions.
If you take one step after listening today, try this. Name a local anti-corruption hero in your country and tag us on social media. Let's put faces to this new awakening, real people changing the game.
That's all for this episode. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, whether you're in Lagos, Gaborone, or Dakar, the fight for accountability starts with you.
Stay curious, stay vocal, and we'll catch you next time with more stories from the front lines of Africa's transformation.